Hello, my name's Autumn Simonson, and this is my psychology and film case report on the character Preminger from the movie Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper. Little general description, Preminger's plans to take over the throne are thwarted when the kidnapped Princess Annalise has a pauper lookalike to take her place for the throne. A little bit of movie environment. It takes place in Queen Genevieve's kingdom, which is loosely based off the English Renaissance, both by the surroundings and by the fact that the book it's based off takes place in 1547. The movie starts with a small kingdom on the brink of bankruptcy as the national treasury has been depleted and the people are about to experience a famine. There's a very strict class system that divides the royalty at the top of the mountain and the common paupers who live down at the base of the mountain. And there's some social issues, although it's unclear whether the lower class is fully aware of the famine that they're about to enter into. So the character I did was Preminger. He is the villain and main antagonist of the movie. He is royal advisor to Queen Genevieve, and he describes himself as a peasant's son, implying he worked his way up to his station. He is depicted as vain, self-centered, and lacking of empathy, and he is attempting to take over the throne by depleting the kingdom of its gold supply, which is why the national treasury is empty. Diagnosis possibilities. I sort of went back and forth between antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, as he has some of the characteristics of both, specifically deceitfulness, lack of remorse, irritability for antisocial, but most overtly, he has this grandiose sense of self-importance, unlimited success, exploitation, arrogance, and a lack of empathy, common in narcissistic personality disorder. And in the end, I did decide to go with narcissistic personality disorder because the grandiosity characteristic is what separates it from other Class B disorders, which I found Preminger to have. And also, antisocial personality disorder may not be as needy of the admiration and envy of others, page 672, American Psychological Association, 2013. Whereas Preminger is very much in need of admiration and envy of others, which he shows through his desire to be the most powerful person in the kingdom. He also just genuinely did not have enough of the criteria to meet antisocial, so a diagnosis could not be confirmed, whereas NPD very much could be confirmed by his character. Cultural context. A therapist in the movie, if Preminger were to go see one, he would be able to see one due to his resources and his access to resources, but this does not mean that there is developed therapy within the English Renaissance within a kingdom that is suffering from bankruptcy. However, due to the people's general disposition within the movie, I do believe that any therapist would recognize that Preminger has deeper issues revolving narcissism and his self-absorption and vanity. And although they wouldn't have the medical terminology, I do believe that a therapist would have diagnosed Preminger with some sort of vanity, self-absorption stemming diagnosis or illness. Culture in general. Narcissism is a trait that has been around for a while. Weatherhill, in 1991, argued that political and social objections that fabricated in terms of narrow self-interest has caused modern American society to be more narcissistic as a whole and to diagnose more people with NPD. And although obviously Preminger does not live within this culture, it's possible that his status as a peasant son in a class-based system fueled his desire for wealth and his desperate need for admiration and for people to see him as something great since he was born as something so low within the culture. Stigmas. People with NPD are stigmatized as inhuman, evil, beyond redemption, one-dimensional, and it ignores a lot of the deeper insecurities that people with NPD face, and instead makes it harder for people with NPD to come out and talk about it. First symptoms that he shows is fantasies of unlimited success. He talks extensively of his dreams of grandeur and imagines a future of wealth, royalty, and admiration is seen in the picture, which is within his mind. He imagines himself rich and with Princess Annalise in love with him and as king of the country. And his fantasies fuel his actions to make them a new reality, such as his line, "Master in charge of all that I see, all hail me," followed with this picture of a grandiose idea of him rich and a king. Symptom 2 is that he lacks empathy. This is a sort of controversial symptom listed within the DSM-5, as with a lack of empirical data. So I found an empirical data source that showed that people with NPD have impaired emotional empathy, whereas cognitive empathy remains unaffected. Page 245, Ritter et al., 2011. Cognitive empathy is the understanding how people feel in a given situation, whereas emotional empathy is the ability to feel another person's emotions. I found that this fit Preminger very well, because in the scene where he tells Queen Guinevere that her daughter is dead, he understands that she is feeling grief and understands that she is mourning her loss, but he does not feel those feelings with her, and instead uses those feelings to get what he wants, and mimics the feelings to make her feel as if he understands. A symptom that is not present within Preminger is that people with NPD believe they should only associate with special or of high status people. However, his two comrades, Nick and Neck, respectively, are unintelligent, low-class people that he entrusts with his plans and takes their thoughts into consideration, and although he treats them poorly, he does not believe nor imply that he should stop associating with them or that he sees them as lesser than the other royals. Treatment plan, I say that Preminger should undergo psychodynamic psychotherapy because of the individualized experience of people with NPD and the lack of a medical cure. It would be tailored to Preminger's specific needs, although it would be important to avoid an adversarial or combative way of dealing with resistance, since Preminger would most likely resist the treatment of his disorder due to his own self-absorption. Barriers and concerns. Social barriers. Preminger just may be too prideful to try therapy, and is also highly unlikely that a small kingdom with a suffering economy has therapists skilled enough to properly treat anyone with NPD. Ethical concerns. Actually, for the therapist, the patient may treat the therapist with contempt, condescension, and dismissiveness, and which can bring out the worst in a therapist. And so in trying to treat Preminger, we may end up hurting the therapist trying to treat him, which is not a good thing. Broader perspectives. The movie depicted an exaggerated example of NPD and did not include any internal struggle with self-esteem or the fragility, and instead made fun of a desperate and a need for attention, rather than asking why he needs said attention. And watching films like this influences our understanding of NPD because these exaggerated depictions eliminate the struggle and the internal battle of people who try to relate but can't quite relate and are too narcissistic to fully understand what's going on around them. People with NPD may see characters such as Preminger and feel they are being mocked, and even less likely to go seek treatment for their issues as they feel ashamed. These are my works cited. This is a final glance at Preminger, and thank you so much.